We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. We have taken this opportunity to congratulate the Imam of our time, may Allah hasten his reappearance, and also the whole of the Muslim Ummah on the birth of Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam. Inshallah, you guys will be celebrating and wearing your nicest clothes, and inshallah, either last night or tonight, having a very, very big meal. When you're doing your iftar, please remember us, and also in your du'as, inshallah. This is a live show. We do take in all your questions. So if you have any questions in regards to Islamic fiqh, please send them on the WhatsApp, the email address Ahkam SOS at Imam Hussein TV, or alternatively give us a call here in the studio +44 203 515 0199. Inshallah, myself and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer any of your questions. If you're watching via YouTube or in Facebook Live, send in your questions in the comment section, and inshallah the team will be able to send me those questions in and we'll be able to answer them. I'm your host Mohsin Shah, and joining me is Sheikh Ali Maash. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
I want to congratulate you on the birth of Imam Hassan, inshallah. Mabruk, Jashan Mabruk.
وجش مبروك as well. وأسعد الله أيامكم إن
And I
شاء
hope
الله.
your health is good and your
إن شاء الله. الحمد لله. All fine. الحمد لله.
Sheikhna, did the books of the non-Shia mention anything about the virtues of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. Indeed, as you mentioned, Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam and in overall Ahlulbayt salamullah alayhim are mentioned in somehow in the books of the main 6 books of Sahah, as they call it, the 6 Sahah, the most correct books after the Holy Book of Allah, as they claim, and other books of history and narrations in which they bring the virtues and fada'il of Ahlulbayt alayhim salam. So, of course, Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam also was mentioned in these important books for Ahlul Sunnah. For example, Ibn Kathir, in his book Al-Bidayah wal-Nihayah, he mentions this narration bi-isnadihi, with his own chain of narrators, which makes the hadith stronger, because he, the author of this book, made the research and he actually narrates this narration from his own chains. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. So he narrates from Jabir, from Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وآله, about Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam. He says صلى الله عليه وآله من سره أن ينظر إلى سيد شباب أهل الجنة. If one wants to have the joy of looking at the master of the paradise, the master of the youth of the paradise, فلينظر إلى الحسن عليه السلام. Then let them look at Al-Hassan salamullah alayh. So he is the master of the youth of paradise. Another narration in Muslim, Sahih Muslim, second book, the second Sahih, عن أبي هريرة, from this narrator, in which they take their hadith from this narrator, عن النبي صلى الله عليه وآله أنه قال للحسن, the Holy Prophet said to Al-Hassan عليه السلام, اللهم إني أحبه, و Allah, indeed I love him, فأحبه, and you do so, love him, وأحبب من يحبه, and love the one who loves him. Salamu alayhi. So you can see that there's a lot of emphasis on the virtues and fada'il of Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, and alike of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. But sadly we see that the same Muslims, the same ulama, the scholars who narrated this hadith, those Muslims who heard and became known with this hadith and familiar with this hadith, they still leave Imam al-Hassan aside and follow Muawiyah as the Khalifa of Muslims. Sadly. Muawiyah, who waged war against Imam Ali alayhi salam. The Battle of Siffin. Thousands of Sahaba and Muslims were killed in this battle. So how could you basically follow somebody who fought your fourth caliph, as you claim? So, things are very clear. Haqq is very clear and wadih. We don't have to hide ourselves away from the truth. This is the truth, is with Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salamullah alayhi.
Excellent. Inshallah, we're going to go to a short break now, and after the break, we'll continue our discussion here on Ahkam SOS. Join us after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Just a quick reminder to all our viewers that this is a live show. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, send them in via the WhatsApp, the email address, give us a call on 0203 515 0199, or alternatively on social media, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook Live. Send in your questions in the comment section, and inshallah we'll be able to discuss and answer all of your questions. Assalamu alaikum, Shah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Shaykhna, what are other acts in the month that brings great reward?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. By looking at the narration or the sermon of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this blessed month, the month of Ramadan, we find that the Prophet mentions that there's something great to be done as well in this holy month for the one who can get also multiple rewards. He states, Salamullah alayhi, وَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ بِصَلَاةٍ كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَهُ بَرَاءَةً مِنَ النَّارِ. Whoever among you offers voluntary prayers, mustahab prayers. Let's say we have mustahabbat of salah every night. Sometimes it's 2 rak'ah, sometimes it's 4 rak'ah, sometimes it's 6 rak'ah, sometimes it's 100 rak'ah. So it depends on the night.
Yes.
Allah will decree a clearance for him from the torment and the adab of the fire. That's important, that these salawat that we pray will refrain the one from facing the torment and the adab of the hellfire. Na'udhu billah. وَمَنْ أَدَّى فِيهِ فَرْضًا كَانَ لَهُ ثَوَابًا مَنْ أَدَّى 70 فَرِيضَةً فِيمَا سِوَاهُ مِنَ الشُّهُورِ. Another great word for this holy month specifically. Whoever among you performs an obligation, let's say salah, 2 rak'ah of salat al-subh, obligatory prayer, will receive the reward of one who has performed 70 obligations in other months. So this 2 rak'ah salah subh you pray in the holy month of Ramadan is compared to 70 in the other months. So Allah Azza wa Jal is merciful, is kind. He wants to, we are on his banquet, in his diyafa.
Nice.
We are now receiving all these bounties and rewards. So let's get as much as we can from this holy month, inshallah. We try to get as much as rewards as we can, because we got a long journey in the hereafter.
Indeed.
Thousands and thousands of years.
Ahsan. Shaykhna, for those who have qadha fasts and they're not sure how many, how are they meant to repay their fasts?
Those who are not sure of how many days they have qadha, they just need to fast the days in which they are certain of. So they can calculate in roughly how many years in their adolescence they missed these qadha of the fasts, and then they can actually make them up according to the certainty and yaqeen they have.
Shaykhna, a question for one of our viewers, and that is it obligatory to perform qadha of the month of Ramadan immediately after Eid al-Fitr?
No, it's not obligatory. You have plenty of time to do the qadha, but make sure that just before next holy month of Ramadan, the coming year, you have completed your qadha. In other words, now it's the holy month of Ramadan, you have till next Sha'ban, the month of Sha'ban, the coming Sha'ban, in say 11 months time. You have to make sure that by the end of Sha'ban of next year, you have completed all your qadha of fasts. So that's your basically
target, so your goal.
Last day of, let's say, of your qadha to end it basically.
Excellent. Shaykhna, what are the spiritual effects of a'mal and its applications of the month of Ramadan on the spirituality of the human being?
Yeah, there are 2 points. Number one is to fill this gap, because as a human, we have, as they say, shortage in somehow. We have to fill this moral or the spiritual requirement in our essence, in ourselves, in our souls. And that could be done by, as I've mentioned before, we have the tahliyah and takhliyah. Takhliyah is to remove all these bad habits and sins and so forth, and bad thoughts, evil thoughts. Because what happens when one wants to commit a sin, he thinks first. He makes the intention first to do that sin. So when we remove and clear out all these bad habits and intentions from ourselves, we move to the tahliyah, is to receive the good morals and conducts and behaviors and manners gradually. And of course, the second is to make a relation with Allah Azza wa Jal. Asking Allah Azza wa Jal in this holy month, try to again recite these ad'iyah in which, as the Holy Quran states, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in Surah 13, Ayah 28, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. By remembering Allah, the hearts will feel comfort, will feel in ease. So we have to remember Allah Azza wa Jal in order to feel this comfort in our heart, in ourselves. That's important. So yes, number one is to make room in ourselves, in our nafs, for the good things to come inside, and also to pray Allah Azza wa Jal and go towards Allah Azza wa Jal, seeking His forgiveness and mercy. Inshallah.
Inshallah. Shaykhna, my friend who lives in another country would like to play backgammon and chess online with me. What is my ruling according to His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani?
His Eminence mentions that it is absolutely not allowed to play these gambling games even online. They are made for gambling purposes originally. So you can't play them anyhow.
What about if I'm not going to put money down? What if there's no money or betting involved at all? What does Sayyid Sistani say about that?
Still, the Sayyid has the same fatwa that it is absolutely not permissible, not allowed to play.
Interesting.
These are, as I've said, originally made for gambling purposes. Maybe now you want to play it without money, but this is a gambling tool. You cannot use it for anyhow.
Okay, excellent. Shaykhna, the land that the government grants to individuals to live, reside on, is it liable to khums, and when?
If one does not reside or live in that land, that place, ala kulli hal, in the same year, then it becomes liable to khums. They have to pay. So it's like extra property he has, keeping aside.
Shaykhna, is it mandatory to treat the furniture and utensils of rented accommodations in non-Muslim countries as najis or not?
You see, by default, everything is pure and tahir, unless you're certain that it's najis. You haven't seen with your own eyes, or somebody else's eyes, or witnesses who can come forward and tell you this is najis. As long as they are originally, you haven't seen anything of najasa, then they are run to be tahir, and you can use them. There's no issues at all. The same applies when you go to hotels, to rented properties, anywhere you go. You cannot say these are all najis because they belong to non-Muslims. No, they are all tahir and pure, unless you see the najasa by yourself or by somebody who you trust, who becomes witness, as a witness, to tell you that this place was such and such of najasa.
Inshallah. Okay. Shaykhna, okay, so an email came in. Though my father is Muslim, I am not raised in a religious household and was not taught anything about Islam until I was about 20 years old, at which point I began praying, fasting, etc. Should I make up the prayers and fasts that I have missed from the time I began bulugh until the time I began to practice Islam? I'm Muqallid of His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Saeed Hakim.
Yes, the Sayyid mentions that it is obligatory to make up all these days which you didn't fast and you didn't pray.
Oh wow.
because he was Muslim. But they just neglected. There wasn't much effort
Okay.
made to basically teach them, guide them about the Ahkam of Islam. They still have to make up, the Salah, the Siyam. However, for the Siyam, for the fasting, they need to pay fidya for the delay in making up those days. So there's basically fidya must be paid with this regard.
Shaykh, according to His Eminence, Ayatollah Sayyid Hakim, if one is to touch the corpse of a dead body and doesn't perform the ghusl until after dawn, can that person keep a fast?
Well, the Sayyid mentions that the fast is not nullified by touching that corpse in the whole month of Ramadan.
Okay.
So he may fast as well. There's no issue with it.
I see.
Because
Okay.
what breaks the fast is when an individual was in a state of janaba and he remains in janaba till the dawn without washing, without tayammum.
Yes.
That is the problem. Now, is it due to intercourse or ejaculation? Ala kul hal, whatever is the reason, staying with the janaba state would break the fast. So, yeah, that's the main issue.
Okay. Question from one of our viewers, Sheikhna. I have nightmares about deaths and jinn sometimes, not continuous, and sometimes also have sleep paralysis. What should be done? I think for sleep paralysis you should be visiting a doctor, but again, Sheikhna, dreams of death and jinns.
Yes, exactly. As you mentioned, if they can seek medical advice, that would be an advantage, a credit. However, they can actually recite the 4 short surahs in the Holy Quran, the last surah, the 4 qul, we call it. قل يا أيها الكافرون قل هو الله أحد قل أعوذ برب الفلق and قل أعوذ برب الناس.
Yes.
To try to recite this before they sleep. Also to recite or perform Tasbihat al-Zahra alayhi salam, the well-known tasbihah in which the followers of Ahlulbayt alayhi salam recite after each salah, wajib salah.
Okay.
Also to recite Surah Qul Huwa Allahu Ahad 3 times. Again, be in the state of wudu when you want to sleep. Always do the wudu first and then go to the bed. It's got reward, thawab as well. So we try to work on our spiritual side as well, to avoid these kinds of nightmares and dreams in which would affect my mental health and soul as well. But anyhow, they may need to seek medical advice at the end.
Yes.
Plus these a'mal of dua and Quran and so forth.
Inshallah. Sheikhna, second question from one of our viewers. I'm texting from South Carolina, mashallah. I have a question. Is it mandatory to fast while pregnant? Will these days have to be made up? Do you need to pay for it? According to the opinion of Sayyid Sistani.
The Sayyid mentions that fasting for a woman who is in her advanced stage of pregnancy,
Okay.
say 7th month or 8th month, ala kulli hal, close to her delivery, in a few weeks' time, for example, it's not obligatory for her to fast. There's a harm on the baby, there's a harm on herself. So in this situation, there's no need for this lady to fast, but she needs to basically give a fidya of 750 grams per day to the poor, as a food to the poor.
Yes.
And of course, to make it up later after this whole month of Ramadan, inshallah.
I see. Another question from one of our viewers, Sheikhna. I have a quick question. Does taking a pill, medicine, without water break your fast?
You see, if you were to take medication during the daytime of the holy month of Ramadan, then you're ill. You cannot basically fast if you're ill and you're taking medication. Sometimes I'm ill, but I can manage. I can actually bear the fasting and take the medication at night. That's fine. I have to fast in this situation. It's like somebody who has a cold or flu.
Yes.
They can still fast by taking paracetamol, let's say during the night.
Yes.
Iftar time and sahar time. But when it comes to somebody who is, let's say, diabetic, or for example, other illnesses, and they have to take those medications during the daytime, well, there's no choice. They have to break it and try to make it up later when inshallah they get the healing, inshallah, afterwards.
Inshallah. Shaykh, a couple more questions coming in from, I think, from the social media. Okay. What is the Islamic ruling about someone who does not fast intentionally or breaks his fast deliberately?
Someone who doesn't?
Someone who does not fast intentionally, I'm not going to keep the fast, Ramadan, or someone who breaks his fast deliberately.
Again, I mean, this is mentioned previously as well, that there is a qada and kafara of this individual.
Okay.
The one who breaks his fast by eating and drinking without, I mean, they know very well it's month Ramadan.
Yes.
They have to make it up later and pay kafara as well.
Inshallah. Also, the makeup, I think, is 60 days worth of fast, isn't it?
It's either 60 days of consecutive fast
or
feeding 60
feeding
miskin.
Shaykh, if a person has a lot of doubts in wudu, prayer and ghusl, etc., what should he do?
Just ignore it and move on.
Yeah, I think these doubts are more to do with the OCD, making sure that they've done the correct actions. Did anything? What is the stance of Islam in regards to adopting children? And if a child is with the family from his or her early days and develops a bond, do the laws of mahram and non-mahram still have to be observed?
I think we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago with regards to adoption, that Ayatollah Sistani was clear about this, that you're not allowed to basically consider this child as your own child. So you bring documents, certificates, and you would basically legalize them as your children. You're not allowed, because they're not mahram to your children and yourself as well. If she's a girl, if she turns to be 10, 12, then she's not mahram, because she's like a strange girl, no mahram. So in this situation, they have to make sure that when they reach the age of adolescence and bulugh, the mother should wear the hijab from the boy who is now baligh, and the father should also avoid looking at the girl if she is now in the age of adolescence and bulugh, because they are not, there's no
biological
connection to those children. Yes, they are adopted, that's fine, it's a great thawab, but you have to be also study the case of the haram halal ahkam.
Shaykh, I have a daughter who has attained the age of puberty, so she's balugh, and she must fast according to Islamic law, but she is too weak to fast. How should she go about fasting?
The ulama say, in overall, you cannot abandon fasting just because of weakness. Yes, the first year is very hard, especially for the girls, I know. Yes. I appreciate it. But Allah Azza wa Jal is wise. He knows why did He legislated such ahkam, such rules. He knows that in the age of 10, a girl can fast. But it depends. Sometimes a girl, they can't bear it. But in overall, the ulama say that if she can, for example, eat or drink to the minimum required, let's say a cup of water, if it's enough, then it's enough. A bit of toast or bread, that should be enough. And then she continue her fasting till the Maghrib time, and then she needs to make it up later after the holy month of Ramadan. Yes, in the extreme situations, things are different. They can't bear it anymore. But in overall, they have to try to, train on fasting and even other amal of the wajib.
Just one more that we've got, and that is, can you gargle salty water whilst fasting?
The problem is it's going to reach the throat, the place in which the sa'im would be breaking his fast if it reaches the throat. So it's a bit risky. There's a high risk of breaking your fast. So best thing is to avoid this act in the daytime of the holy month of Ramadan, inshallah.
Sheikh, I think one more question is coming through from one of our viewers, inshallah, when I receive that. But in the meantime, Sheikh, with fasting and the ahkam, here we are, there it is. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. regarding hijab for men and women, it is generally taken whenever a discussion of hijab is brought up, the women stress that the hijab is for men and the men should lower their eyes. And they refer to chapter 24, ayah 30. But this is an incomplete perception, as the next ayah, ayah 31, talks about hijab for women. Can you please throw a light on this and clarify? Thank you. From, they mentioned the name and everything, also I'm not going to mention the name and so forth. Shaykhna, yes, so hijab, first the Quran addresses hijab for the man and how he's supposed to, observe his hijab amongst ladies. And then secondly, the ayah comes in regards to ladies and how they are supposed to, maintain their hijab also. Do you think this is a way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first addressing the man before telling the lady what she needs to do, but also to include that, look, men, it's not a case of you don't have to cover up or this or that. You also have a hijab to maintain. From your experiences and your studies, how do you think this was the hijab idea and the hijab, the whole system of hijab has come upon man and upon the Muslims?
You see, Allah Azza wa Jal is a wise creator. So He created man, the male, in this form, in this situation, and the females in this state and form. في أحسن تقويم, in the best shape and form. And when He commands something, He knows why. He's the wise. He is the most wise. He's the all knowing, Azza wa Jal. So, of course, He orders the man not to look, but at the same time for the women to protect themselves from the eyes of the men as well. So it's a mutual collaboration between the men and the women to protect the society from corruption, because the female is there and the male is there to join together and to form the society. So there should be some kind of boundaries. You can't just let things off and let's have everything free. Let's have no hijab, things will be chaotic, as we see today, chaotic. Destruction everywhere in this world, politically, economically, morally. You can see how women has been utilized and used since centuries, thousands of years, in this wrong way and method. That's why Allah wants to protect this woman from the attack of the intruders and those who want to just use this woman as a tool and leave her alone and just go. But once this, as Islam wants to offer tranquility and respect and love and with full of emotions in the house of a family. So it's very clear, alhamdulillah, we don't have to go through in details, that a man has duties and a woman has duties. And we have to respect both.
Indeed.
In terms of their duties and responsibilities. So we try to obey Allah Azza wa Jalla in this form, and we can understand that having hijab, having all these instructions and fiqh and ahkam is for the benefit of you, the creation of Allah Azza wa Jalla, the mankind, to protect you, yourself, your family, your parents, your children, from the intruders, from the thieves of the humanity, in other words.
Shaykhna, one more question from the YouTube, this one. How can I make my fast and go to my parents who have passed away?
So they want to fast on behalf?
Maybe, I'm not sure whether it's qada or whether they just want to, donate the thawab towards their marhum.
Yes, you can, do the salah, siyam on behalf of your parents and send the thawab to them. Why not? They get the thawab. They're waiting, by the way, especially these days and nights, for our thawab to be sent to them. Grandparents, relatives, whoever we know, friends, family, to send the thawab to them by the means of even Surah Fatiha. That would be a great means of reward, will be sent to their grave. So we try, inshallah, send as much as we can of thawab and rewards to the graves of the loved ones, inshallah.
Thank you so much, Sheikhna. I just want to say to one of the viewers is that we've had a question in regards to Parmesan cheese and animal rennet. We have received your question, and we are in the process of speaking with one of the offices back in Qom. As soon as we get the answer, we will definitely answer your question. We're just still waiting for a response from the office, inshallah. Thank you very much, Sheikhna, for your time and for your efforts, inshallah. The Sheikh and I will be back tomorrow, 6 p.m. I know a lot of you guys are watching, a lot of you guys are sending in your questions. We'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. inshallah, on Imam Hussein TV 3. Send in all your questions via the WhatsApp, the email address, YouTube, Facebook, in the comment sections. We will answer your questions eventually, inshallah. If we haven't answered your question today, we do apologize. Tomorrow is another episode, inshallah, we'll be able to answer your questions then. Join us tomorrow, 6 p.m. here on Imam Hussein TV 3. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.